I am Tom, founder of Demand Genius and host of Demand Geniuses. This show is all about equipping B2B marketers with everything they need to convert demand to revenue. So please hit the follow button, it makes me really happy, and then enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Demand Geniuses. I'm going to get straight into it today and introduce my guest, who I've been very looking forward to having on. So she is the CMO at Leadfeeder. You might know it as Dealfront, and we'll get into that. Jillian Als. So Jillian, hello, welcome.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. And the reason that Jillian is laughing, everyone, is because just before we recorded, I stopped and asked her how to pronounce the name. So I'm hoping that I still did it right in spite of that.
To be fair, it's my married name, and I had to learn it too as an American now living in Denmark. So you're not the only one.
Okay, so you've been through this as well. Well, I'm Tom Rudd.
Yes.
It's no one ever gets it right. I've had like Rudini, red eye in my time. So you learn not to take it too personally.
No, exactly. I'm just glad when people get my first name right because I get Julian all the time. I'm like, no,
That
Jillian.
seems slightly rude. That's a guy's name. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, look, Jillian, we're already way off track, so I'm gonna bring us back. First of all, yeah, good to have us. Rather than me do a kind of really bad job of giving people a rundown of your background, do you want to just maybe take us through a little bit of who you are, where you've been, what you're doing?
Yeah, so thanks for the quick introduction. Jillian, CMO at Leadfeeder. My background is B2B marketing pretty much my entire career, which is almost 20 years. So I'll let you guess my age. But got started in digital, did my come up managing 200,000 keywords. And then, I've been in enterprise and startups and scale ups. I love scale ups. I love kind of bringing organization to chaos. Have done multiple funding rounds, mergers, acquisitions, even a bankruptcy and a pear tree. So I feel like I've tried it all. I love change. I love brand. And, I think in today's AI age, brand is the moat, right? And so I'm really enjoying flexing that muscle, even though I'm still 100% a subscriber to the ethos that marketing generates revenue. So yeah, my background, B2B SaaS, since before it was called SaaS, PLG, SLG, partner-led. I've done a lot of different things in my career. So I feel like, you can ask me pretty much anything.
Okay, well, I'll take you up on that. I'm gonna put you up on one thing you just said. Was it you love bringing organization to chaos, or you love bringing organizations to chaos?
Like bringing organization to chaos.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe some of my ex-bosses would beg to disagree.
We won't go down that route then. I've got to also tell me a little bit. I've never spoken to someone who's been through the whole bankruptcy process. I don't want to go maybe too far down that rabbit hole because I don't know how much you're going to be able to share about the behind the scenes.
I mean, I'm an open book on that. I mean, bankruptcies, at least in Denmark, are public information, so there's nothing too secret about it. But yeah, that was a crazy time. I think it's like one of those things where you're like, what's the worst could happen? And it was like, oh, the worst happened. And I got through it. And I learned a lot and made it to the other side. And so it's just made me much more robust, if anything. I think it was hard in the moment because I am a control freak as well. So like the idea that something so big was out of my control, just showing up without a paycheck and then like being, completely without a job from one day to the next without it being my own decision was just mind-boggling. But I think it took me about a month and I found a new job and life was fine.
Yeah, was it a large organization and was it something that you kind of seek
No.
out of the blue?
So it was like right after the height of like the SaaS bubble, if you will. I just exited a company. We did a very nice exit. It was like right before the kind of SaaS bubble broke. And so maybe I took this job with the wrong colored lenses on, if so to speak. It was a startup. I thought I did my due diligence, short of just asking them to like open up their HubSpot or their books, right? Like this is where we started the year. This is where we're going to end up. I started talking to them in like August. And when I showed up in November to start working, I was like, sorry, is there another HubSpot? Where's the money? And so at the time, the CEO was just like, well, remember I said we were struggling a little bit with the product? And I was like, yeah, but you didn't say that like you were so far off your budget. So basically, December, we closed the books at like 10% of what I was sold into what we would do for revenue that year. So I was like, well, in August, you should have already seen that writing on the wall. And by the time I showed up in November, like there was no way. So that was writing on the wall really for the beginning. So this whole experience was only about 8 months. And we had a lot of different investors and I was just being, go, go, go. We were able to book meetings. We were able to like get top of the funnel. But like something was wrong on the pricing side and we couldn't get things to close. And there was some glitches in the product and so forth. So I think we really struggled with product market fit. I came in to do an ICP exercise because I was like, and the founder at the time was just like, anyone who has a brain needs our product. I'm like, okay, but I love the energy. We got to be a little bit more strategic. Yeah. And I was like joking that I could set money on fire faster than the way I was burning it and being asked to burn it. And, part of me feels like it wasn't just what I was doing that made the company go bankrupt. I was specifically mandated to continue to spend the money. But yeah, it was a weird experience and like just didn't sit right from like a ethical perspective afterwards. I think I learned a lot of early warning signs and yeah, it was 8 months of chaos. And I did not bring any organization to it. I tried. Yeah, I think we were like 45 people when we got dissolved. It did restart a month later in a much, much smaller format, but then it went bankrupt again. So yeah.
So you said that you came to that from a kind of pretty successful exit, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
What you described is like you were during the SaaS bubble, and so you kind of have this bulletproof confidence that just things
Yeah.
grow. And I think there's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of people in the next year or two that might go through that as well with AI.
Trust me. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a different dawn, right? I think I'm an older millennial, but like I've never led through a downturn before. Like, how do you lead teams through a downturn? How do you lead teams through disruption? We thought the SaaS bubble in itself was a disruption, but right now what we're going through is like X that, if not 100X that, in terms of what AI is doing and forcing. And what was it? Meta laid off 8,000 people last night. Like, it just keeps going, right? And so is another new chapter that happens relatively fast. But like I got out of college at the financial crisis. I graduated college in '08, still got a job, entry level. I wasn't the people that were kind of impacted by that downturn, if you will. But yeah, so like after the SaaS bubble, like leading people through, like it just is something, a muscle I never had to use before, even though I had been a leader for over a decade at that point. So it's interesting for sure.
Would you say you learned more in the successful startup before or during that process? And what do you think has like stuck with you most from that process now?
Yeah, I learned through both, obviously. Like I think you learn through both successes and you always learn more somehow when I don't know that I look at it as a complete failure. It wasn't like me essentially failing the business, but multiple things that, led to the failure of that business. And I learned a lot about myself in both instances. And that's what I've just been able to kind of take with me into other roles in terms of continuing to have confidence and conviction, or warning signs, if you will, of things that, definitely aren't right and choosing the right job for the right reasons. And like that's an easy learning, I guess you could say. But also, like I said to you, like just even right now, I'm like, I've been through something really crappy. This is new. This is feeling somewhat crappy because everyone's feeling like they're going to be replaced by AI at any second now. I think we'll get through it. I still, at the end of the day, believe in people. I believe in the skills that I have around people. And I think it's just given me the confidence to say, you know what? We'll take it when it comes and we'll get through it and we'll have a lot of fun along the way, at least.
Yeah, well, that's a nice uplifting message. So let's get in from that into what you're actually doing with
Yeah.
what is now Leadfeeder. So, and we were
Yes.
joking in our kind of prep call for this that I think you joined there in October 2025, and the first thing you did was a rebrand, which is obviously the massive
Yeah.
cliche that you were like, but I swear,
Yeah. Super cliche. Yeah.
talk me
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't take the job with the mandate to rebrand the company. I took the job with the mandate that things have to change. Like, speaking of like rocket ships and stuff like that, we are not a rocket ship right now. Like, we are turning the boat around. And so when I showed up, I was kind of like, okay, we've got Dealfront, which is the result of a merger 3 years ago between a very traditional German sales first, in office heavy culture and a Finnish remote first PLG motion. Wow, what a concept. And like the products were just finally 3 years later getting to a point where they were integrated, but there was still so much chaos in the organization in terms of like different audiences, different narratives, different entry points, two different websites, two different brands, because we kept the Leadfeeder brand as our moat. It's a data asset that AI can't disrupt. So that was a strategic decision, was the right decision. Like, we're going to keep Leadfeeder. But when I show up, I'm like, okay, but you're killing me because as a marketer, my resources and my budget, like, it only goes so far. I can't set a brand and forget it. Can't just have Leadfeeder and just ignore it. But even if I split my budget 50-50, like, they're not going to get 50% of their potential. Like, it just, you know, it's diminishing returns when you're kind of separating your mind space and your people and your focus and your resources and your budget across multiple brands, especially at the stage we're at, right? We're not, a $400 billion company like with all of the brand equity in the world to begin with. So we got together as a leadership team, like, all right, like we're making things too complicated. We had a new leadership team, new CEO, CMO, new CPTO. So it was time for a change. And we came to the kind of the strategic decision that we were going to consolidate. And it didn't make sense to make yet a new brand because even the market is still not fully adjusted to Dealfront, but that we would hate saying the words go back to Leadfeeder. And a part of it was because AI did disrupt our sales intelligence use case. And so where we have the moat in terms of our company to IP data and the website identification and doing something for the marketer, this is where we wanted to focus. And the marketer knows Leadfeeder. So the brand became Leadfeeder. And now we're just doubling down on the persona being, performance, demand, marketing leadership, building out the product to solve more of the pains that are keeping marketers up at night. Some things that people already use our product for that are kind of like jailbroken in terms of attribution, like we should be able to do more there. What is keeping marketing up at night? Justifying our existence. Like it's not new, but it feels even more intense than ever. So yeah, it became like a pretty obvious decision. But then it was like, cool, the board supports us. Do it yesterday. So we did it in a quarter. We rebranded a new website and new look and feel, new vision, mission, purpose work, which for me was the most important part. Like I can't get on a pedestal, on a website, on a podcast and talk to you about what we do without fully believing the purpose of what we're doing. And so that was a huge part of the work, not just the colors and the fonts and these kind of things. So that was the story. And we did it in a quarter and we launched March 24th. And now we're 2 months into it.
It's funny that so that's the second time in 2 days that I've had a big conversation like this about like vision, mission, purpose, because I think it's one of the most important things we've just got done on our side doing this big study where we were looking at 90,000 pieces of HR tech content. And we wanted to look at over the last like decade of content, how has it changed and how well optimized is it and how well differentiated is it? And one thing we found across all of that content, optimization of content is pretty solid. We've all got quite good at that in the kind of search era because that was what drove success. In the AI era, differentiation is what drives success. Are you giving models and humans something they can't get bespoke from ChatGPT, which obviously has synthesized all of your content? And the differentiation is unbelievably low. And actually, you can look during 2025, huge uptick in content volume and differentiation falling absolutely off. So I think what you've just described, ignoring whether you need to rebrand, whether you need to reposition or anything like that, that process is something every single brand needs to do at the moment. So it's like interesting.
100%.
A bit earlier before this was really borne out in the data.
I mean, I did it at my previous company as well. We didn't rebrand, but we did a huge work on our purpose, vision, mission, kind of because we needed to build the brand. And in order to build the brand, you need your identity and you need your internal team lockstep in terms of every interaction they're having with the market or with customers. It's just as important, right? So I think without it, to your point, like there's no differentiation and there's no conviction and it just becomes AI slop out there, right? You just are part of the noise.
So how did you think about defining that? Because I think it's a difficult thing to define. Like it's easy to define that with a startup because you come into the market with a fresh idea, right? It's a little bit harder to do with like a turnaround type job, or maybe turnaround is a bit harsh, but you know what I'm kind of trying to say.
Yeah, no,
How do you
it's
come in
not
from,
untrue.
how do you come in from the
Yeah.
outside and define that?
Well, you feel like an imposter, right? Because you're like, there's all this legacy, and here I am going to tell you what your purpose is.
Yeah.
But it's like listening and bringing in the organization to a certain extent, but also knowing it's not a democracy, right? Like you're in leadership for a reason, and your job is to lead and to get everyone on board. And if you just start asking everyone their opinions and you make it a vote, it's never going to work. So it was actually worked with an external consultant in terms of like, what do we actually solve for our main persona today? Like what is the value that we're bringing to them? And so we actually defined our mission first, because that's the easiest thing. That's what we do. Like that's how we do it. Even if you think it might be backwards, that's where we landed. The mission was the easier part for us because it's the motion of what we're actually working on today and what we believe in going forward. Then we did the purpose. Like, why are we showing up to the world and to the market with this problem that we're solving for? And why do we want to continue to do that and continue to build products that can serve that purpose? And there was some like, oh, is it our purpose, like why we show up to work individually? No, it can be, but like, yeah, we're B2B software for marketers. Like, we're not feeding starving children. Like, we're not. But we're showing up to help businesses grow. We're showing up to help marketers be better at their job. Good that we're doing. And like, that's, where the purpose was born out of. And that was a leadership decision where we were a little bit wider on the group. And at that point, we're like, cool, we don't need three things just to be putting them on a wall somewhere or in a handbook just for them to be forgotten. Like, let's go with this and like be really intentional about how we integrate it into all of our all hands and our content and so forth. And then at the end of the quarter, we really realized that like, where's the ambition like for the company and like what are we building towards? And so we actually worked on a vision statement, and that was something that was born out of like the CEO's work, to be honest. And I think that's also where it lives, right? Like, where are we going? Like, can't have everyone telling you where we're going. We need someone with real conviction of like something bold, not unachievable, but like, okay, that sounds like we're not going to get there in the next 5 years. And that's the purpose of it, right? Like, that's the reason why you have a vision, is like, it's much, much longer term. And so then we did the mission at the end of the brand rollout, actually. So now we have all three. And they each sit pretty well. I hope that I could like phone a friend right now and ask them, what is our vision? What is our purpose? And they would be able to say it. Like, that was my goal to the organization. It was like, my goal is that like I can call any of you on a random Tuesday and you tell me what our vision, mission, and purpose is.
Well, that's funny
So
because
it doesn't just die in the handbook.
that's actually the next segment is I'm going to call.
Yeah. Yeah. Call Jamie,
Yeah.
my team, the
Well,
encyclopedia.
yeah, I know a little bit about your business because I think Jamie was one of our first guests on here, and Jamie's
Yeah.
people listening to that episode is the director of content, I believe. There,
He's not my director of demand, but yeah, that's where he started, was content.
yeah, and kind of blew me away with the systems thinking. Jamie is a very, very
Yes.
systems thinker. I got
I call him Jamie GPT.
nice. So, but then it's cool when you've got something like that someone like that sitting in the organization. All they need is this direction, right? So what you've done is like, I think we think about content systems a lot, and you can build really good AI content systems that aren't producing AI slop, provided you have those three things clearly defined. So I'd imagine that must have been a huge unlock for him, certainly. How have you gone about? So you kind of defined those three things. How have you then gone about getting that to actually seep through the organization? Because that it's easy to write this stuff on a slide deck, right? It's hard to get it to actually be acted on.
This is the narrative work, right? This is the storytelling, because again, slogans, then they just become taglines, and taglines don't mean shit. Like, so we worked, and that's where product marketing is so important, right? And that's, that's not Jamie, for example, that's Bernardo on my team, but it's how do we tell the story? It's the same story, whether we're telling it internally or to the market. And how do we get so that employees can tell this story from their own perspective without losing the essence of it, and that it's still the same story, it's just with their own words and their own beliefs. And we talked a lot about this signal over noise in terms of everything out there just being inundated with AI generated content or AI generated outreach, and just how much noise there is that you actually lose sight of the signal if you're not paying attention because you're just inundated and overwhelmed. And so we started to really tell the story and integrating our kind of our purpose statement into it and our mission statement into it. And that, I think, is what helped the organization internalize it. And that's what, we've been taking out to events since we've launched, and since we've had stage opportunities and things like that. We tell the story, we relate to our persona and the world in which they're living, and explain through the narrative who we are and why we're showing up.
What's the process of doing this work, and then of kind of doing everything that you've just talked about different? I'm sure you've kind of been through similar processes before. In this world of AI-led discovery and kind of execution, how has it changed in your experience? And was it quicker? Was it easier? Was it harder?
Harder, because people start using AI as a clutch and thinking, oh, it's clever, it can help me with more words,
Mm.
but then it just gets so muddy. Like, I can't tell you, and Jamie could probably tell you how many versions of stuff I was just like, what is this? Like, what is this even saying? Like, this is AI slop. Like, stop. Because we're trying to define it as we go. It's not defined to use for the AI engine. Like, I was just like, all right, no AI allowed. like, like, get back to your roots and let's start creating content and creating original thought here. We can figure out AI afterwards, and we use it now, of course, to train our skills and all of these things. But it made it harder because suddenly everyone's a storyteller. Everyone's got platitudes of words to share with us. And it just, another error we made was like used, we were like, oh, we'll get humans to help us. So we hired some freelance writers just for the sheer kind of volume that we needed to produce. Well, they're using AI and they don't know our business. And like that didn't work either. And so like it just all got scratched. It was like wasted work almost because it needed to come from Kevin, our CEO, me, the CMO, our new CPT. Like it needed to come from us and not AI. And you have to build it from scratch in that instance, in my opinion. Of course, you can get the help of AI later to help tune it or, make the grammar better or whatever. This level of work, I don't think AI should replace. Like, I really don't. Like, you can use it as a sparring partner and pick it apart and these kind of things, but it can't be the creator.
Yeah, well, that's what our data showed really clearly is AI doesn't produce differentiated thinking. I mean, but the very nature of is technically you should not say AI because I think AI can, LLMs can't, which is what most people are using at the moment. But it doesn't produce original thought. It's literally not within its remit, not within how these models are built. So I guess there's certain things that you can't do quicker, but that must be difficult. You must have pressure above to do everything quicker, right? I think that's something a lot of
Well,
marketers.
of course. Yeah, we needed to do this in 3 months. This is like, I mean, around the clock work. And then even as a human, you get tired. Like everything starts to look the same to me as a human when I've read the same paragraph 18 times. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God. Like you have to step away from it and come back. And so there's enormous pressure to do things more faster and so forth. But I think the way I've been viewing AI, especially in marketing, is like, yes, it is the enabler. It is not the thing. Like we can't just make up what can we do with AI. It's what do we do? What should AI help us do better or faster? Then, run with it. And so there's certain things that I'm like, okay, tell me what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Okay, of these things, what are the things we don't want AI to do because it needs original thought? What are the things that we want AI to fully automate? Like there's two different ends of the spectrum. Like what stays fully manual and what goes fully agentic. And then there's the messy middle. What is mostly manual with AI assist? What is AI driven with human kind of intervention or kind of editing? And then what's agentic, right? So, and I think any given task or job to be done, whatever you want to call it, sits somewhere on that spectrum of where it should be. Doesn't mean everything needs to be agentic. It just means you need to know where it should land and optimize for that. And I think that is a big unlock for a lot of people who find it inundating or behind, or maybe I'm just projecting a little bit here, but like it's not meant to be the thing. It is an enabler. And I think a lot of people are getting so caught up in look what I can do with AI. And I'm like, that doesn't scale. Like, yeah, anyone can code an app or whatever. The hard part is making it like land in the market and grow. And like that takes emotion, funny enough.
But I think it's difficult because this is so you've in your organization, you're obviously saying this and you're saying this from the top, right? You're the CMO. What I think most marketers feel caught by that I speak to, and I sometimes feel it myself actually, is because AI has been so fantastically marketed and the earliest, most aggressive adopters and like recipients of that marketing are investors, boards, CEOs. These are the people who have been sold promises by AI that then junior marketers are expected to deliver. And so it's one thing for you, but a lot of people would sit lower down in an organization. Like, well, we've seen headcount get chopped. We still have the same pressure to do things. So on the one hand, I have all of the burden of delivering the promises of AI, but none of the freedom and time to do all of the thinking. And that's, I think, where you see a lot churn out AI slop. Like, what would you say to a marketer who maybe agrees with everything you're saying, but doesn't necessarily have the mandate from above to act on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe showing two examples, right? Like for me as a leader, I'm always like, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions, right? Like the same could be said. Like show me what is your original thought and show me what AI produced. And then let's have the discussion of how much time did it take you for each of these things? Because sometimes AI even takes longer because you're fighting with it to make it do what you need
Yes.
it to do. And I'm like, oh my God, I could have made this slide so much faster myself. Like, and I think, you just need to it is my job as a leader to empower my team to think smarter and challenge me because I'm being pressured. I get it. Like I feel like I could be replaced any day. Like I don't know what value I'm adding. I'm not a specialist in anything anymore because I'm like operating across a much wider remit and my context switching on a given day is is, quite extreme. But like, it's not just junior marketers feeling the pressure of AI. And I still want to build something genuine and authentic. And I think it's both top down, but it's bottom up, and fighting for what you believe in and having the right conversations. And hopefully you have a good leader who's going to listen to you. And if you don't, you got to find, that's any job, AI or not, you need to go find yourself a better leader. Like that's always been the case. That's actually nothing new.
Yeah, and it's actually something that I think people never think about enough when they just start a role, start to join a company. Is don't pick a company, just pick a person you want to work for. And if they're good, you'll
100%.
follow them throughout your career, and it'll do amazing things for you. Let's talk about. So we've talked about the like AI execution side of things. When you went about the rebrand, to what extent were you thinking? How much of this brand was built for humans versus how much were you thinking about building the brand for AI? Did that come into your mind at all?
So for the website itself, obviously, like it was an opportunity to say, okay, we're redoing the website. How do we build it for LLMs, right? Like, what are we doing specifically on the structure of the content and these things that make us more, you know, digestible, if you will, or more likely to appear in LLM results. A lot of that is external anyway, but there are certain things that, the website can do. We are working on our product to be more agentic endpoints to be able to kind of sign up and, provision yourself through endpoints so that you could, in theory, also, though we're working on a MCP server into our product, like all of that stuff doesn't sit with me particularly. It's in the product organization, but I get to market it soon enough. And so, spoiler alert, we're working on an MCP.
Our first ever breaking news on the podcast. That's cool.
I think, to be fair, we've said it in a webinar to our customers, so I don't think it's any proprietary information as such right now. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a part of the thought process, and it, for the external side of things, but also internally. So, like, how do like in the space that we're in, legal reviews all of our content. So we build in a legal kind of bot into our CMS to be able to like digest the content directly there and flag anything that might, require legal's official approvals. I mean, there were a lot of things along the way that we thought about AI in terms of integrating it into the new processes going forward, as well as the actual kind of content website itself.
Yeah. Okay. And then have you, I guess maybe, I don't know, it might be a little bit too early to say, but since the rebrand, have you started to get kind of signals come through that show you like this is working and it's all operating as you kind of expected it to? Have there
Yeah,
been
I mean,
noticed afterwards?
there were some very early positive signals. One being our core web vitals were fucking off the charts. Sorry, excuse me. I'll have to edit out my cursing. Super proud of the web team and the SEO manager that we have, like hitting 100% across the board almost on each 4 elements.
Nice.
Google rewarded us because we had 2 websites talking about the same stuff. So we saw rankings improve across the board on a lot of our English ranking content. We are struggling with our German just because Leadfeeder.com never had German content before. So even though we did the 301 redirects from Dealfront, like some of that has been fine, but it's still, a work in progress for us on that side. But like the consolidation around the like website visitor identification type keywords, like that was like the lights turned on. Like instead of 2 domains kind of competing on it, like we just saw our domain increase like pretty significantly. Those were early good signs. Our lead volume has maintained itself. Like we were actually bracing for impact, right? Like okay, we told the business we're gonna take a hit. And we have on the SEO side, like I said, on the German side, but otherwise, we've kind of held stable, which is better than we could have expected. And now it's just about landing it in the market. We've had great feedback at events. I think positive signals for sure.
I mean, I'm not surprised because from our work that we do in the AI search space, it's very, very clear that clarity is more important than anything. If you've got all of these different
Mhm.
products floating around and no one quite knows who you are, who you help, what you're for, then that's going to have a very negative impact. So what you've done is just focus, and it makes it much easier then to build in a way that gives clarity.
100%. Like back to what we talked about and like why we came to this decision. Like as a marketer, I need clarity too. The market needs clarity. I need clarity. It all compounds, right? When we're able to do the one thing that we're really good at.
And I was thinking that as you spoke earlier, because you were like, I'll have to split my budget across. Let's keep it simple and say that it was 2 directions. It sounded like it was actually a little bit more.
Mm.
And all of marketing compounds. So all you're doing is preventing, like, it's the second 50% that actually gives you the most
Yeah.
return if you cut yourself off that. How do you think about that? If we boil that down, because it actually makes me think that I make very bad decisions actually sometimes. If you boil that down away from a brand and to actually a single channel,
I think what most people, or the thing I hear a lot at the moment is you have to be everywhere. But by doing that and spreading your bets across lots of channels, lots of distribution channels, do you think that you get the same effect where you actually prevent any of them from compounding?
Yeah, it's an age-old question, right? Like, how much, for example, does paid search have a halo effect? And how much is cause and correlation? Because you're so addicted to fast results, new logo acquisition, demand capture is always easier to show attribution, all of those things. So things like paid search get heavy investment because it's bottom of the funnel stuff. It's not efficient. I've never worked anywhere where paid search was like super freaking
Mm.
efficient. SEO long term, but it just, no one wants to hear like, we're still building, it's going to take 6 months. Like, you can't say that unless you're also doing the stuff that's bringing in like the dollars at the same time, right? So it's always been this balance. I do find that if I've turned off search, other channels, or paid search, other channels suffer. I've never been brave enough to turn it off long enough to see like how that changes over time. So I agree with you. I don't have the perfect solution. I think everywhere is too much. Like, picking 2 or 3 horses, definitely. And like, your fourth horse is always a testing, right? Until you get it, you know,
Mm.
working to a point where like, okay, this one's going to replace something. But I am looking to reduce our paid search spend dramatically because I don't I don't believe it as much as I used to. I don't know that I ever was like the biggest fan of it, to be honest. I think it's everyone's kind of thing they love to hate. But to answer your original question, yeah, you need to definitely probably reduce and just focus to get more compounding results over time. It's just, does your board have the patience? Do you have the patience? Do you have the runway? Do you have all of these things, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. You talking about paid search. I remember having a really interesting conversation with one of my advisors, who I won't name, but was at Google, and he was kind of talking about how the greatest trick Google ever played was convincing you that particular metrics matter, and it allows them. So they convince you that things like cost per click and ROAS all matter when actually they don't matter to you at all. All it does is allow them to sell you really bad inventory at cheap times. So they can sell you ads that give you really good apparent cost per click and things like that, but they're just selling you the wrong people at times when those people otherwise wouldn't have had an ad to see. So I think there's a lot of games there that make it very hard, has always made it very blurry to understand whether paid search is working. What's triggered you at the moment to be very particularly skeptical? Like, are you more skeptical than
It's
you?
just like, these things when you look at your brand search versus your non-branded search, like, and you report on the blended because it's easier to explain instead of trying to create even more metrics in someone's face who doesn't need to know that level of detail. But like, it hurts, right? Like, but you still need to deliver the leads, and it's delivering the leads. And it's like, okay, if it's a 12-month CAC payback on this, is that okay? But then I start to look at the longer term lifetime value. And like, if you're able to kind of actually track from that channel, and then you get into the whole like, oh, last click versus first click, like how much of the channel actually drove that behavior, but like, how did those segments retain? And so it becomes a balance of this obsession with new business logo acquisition with what's actually healthiest for the business. And I think I've gotten to the point where I'm like, we're going to have to sacrifice on low logo acquisition here because it's not good for the business. When businesses are not looking at growth at all costs anymore, and it's all about margins and, how you retain your customer base over time, you got to cut the thing that the cancer, if you will, that is kind of feeding it. And so I'm a little bit, yes, triggered at the moment because I just don't believe in it. And I think for us, it's because a lot of our paid search has um, performed in the past around sales intelligence use cases. And it's just not a use case that stays and sticks anymore. So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
where I need to say, sorry, SVP of sales, you're going to get less leads for a little while while we work on some other things. But this is just not healthy for the business.
Where does that spend? Because it sounds like it's a refocus towards kind of activating existing customers and retention and kind of upsell and things like that. Like, what are there particular channels that you've identified can really help you with that? Because I think that's often a hard thing to isolate.
Yeah. I mean, marketing channels like nurturing existing customers. Is that your question? Or
Yeah,
just,
it might be
yeah.
a confused question. I guess what I was thinking is if like it's difficult to be I think marketers often struggle to know how to spend their money on that when I've spoken to them outside of just maybe running customer events and things like that.
Yeah. And oftentimes it's more about resource than it is actual like budget dollars. Yes, there's events, there's delight the customer, there's, initiatives like you said, events, but sometimes you have to like realize where are you in the hierarchy of their needs and would they ever come to your event? Not at this company, but like 2 roles ago, I was like, oh, let's have a customer event and we'll do like, a half day of content and we'll treat them to a nice dinner and we'll, pay for their hotel, but like flights are on them. And they're like, I use your product like 3 times a year. Like, why? I'm not coming to Copenhagen, which is awesome, by the way, to talk about your product. So you got to know your audience. But it is a difficult one. And like right now, I don't even have it solved. It's mostly my PMMs that are working with customer marketing because they're doing a lot of communication around things that are happening within the product. But like, I think there's something missing. There's an unlock here. And if that sits with like the growth team, like I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest. And what that requires the budget is also a question mark to me. I don't have any sure playbook answer for how to get that right.
Yeah, okay. No, well, we're going to have to get you back on in a year then to find out. But it's something we've done. Well, I've had a few conversations. I remember speaking to a guy called Dave who was, it's like there's the whole, I'm blanking on the name, but the kind of idea of the bow tie method, and that actually most of the opportunity for most brands lives on the right-hand side of the bow tie, which is everything that happened after post one.
100%. And like, I totally feel that marketing needs to like sit at the pleasure of growth of the business. And if growth is over there, marketing needs to make itself relevant over there as well. It's not CS's job. Retention is a team sport. It is not CS that owns retention. It is the company that owns retention. It's product, it's marketing. It's everyone who touches the customer journey and the brand, right? So it is something that marketing needs to have a lot of focus on, but it's just not the traditional thing that marketing is measured on or even given the mandate to do. I think that's changing, but we don't have the playbooks for it.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's something that a slightly different funding environment actually brings, right? Is that as people are a little bit focused on gaudy growth numbers to exit and a little bit more on just building a sustainable business, then you start to look at what people can actually have the most impact. And I think often that is actually marketing can have a huge impact on things like value realization and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Something I think a lot about with Demand Genius, actually, without going too far down our rabbit hole. But one of the challenges often with having a very well differentiated product is that no one knows how to use it. That's why now we get a lot more hands-on with people. But long term, I'm like, well, that's actually one of the biggest impact that marketing can have for us as a business is teaching people how to use our products, because it's different to what the kind of marketing machine of the AAO injury teaches people. And that's a huge challenge.
Well, yeah. And I guess that we have in common. We're marketing to marketers, right? So like, we should be able to speak their language. We call it dog champagning instead of dog feeding or dog fooding and drinking your own champagne somewhere in the middle. And that's owned by my team now. That was something I came in and was just like, we absolutely need to be doing this like in a structured or unstructured way. I don't care how, like just start doing it and start making new use cases and start being the number one bug reporters of our platform.
Yeah.
Like we need to be living and breathing this, and that is on us. And marketing is just natural communicators, right? So it is our obligation, I think, to help on activation and retention.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not the power user of your own product, then that's always going to be a problem, right? And it makes it harder. Cool. I'm conscious of time, and I want to let you get on with your day at some point. So maybe we'll wrap that up there and get into a couple of quick fires that I like to do.
Okay.
So first one is always a super cliche, super cheesy one. What is an AI use case or an AI tool, whatever, that you absolutely love, like the one that's most blown your mind?
Well, right now it is the fact that I finally found AI that can help me create slides, because I've joked that in my career, how am I still just focused on making slides? And Claude Cowork, we built a kind of a slide skill, and it has all of our brand and stuff. And I don't know, like I have pretty slides without taking hours and hours. So that's been the biggest unlock for me in my role for sure.
Nice. Have you tried Claude Design?
My team has. I guess it's somewhere in my cloud somewhere, but
It's
no,
only
not me personally.
you can only get it on the web at the moment. It's just come out of beta.
Okay.
But if you're using it for slides, so we're doing a kind of not rebrand, but I'm rebuilding the website because I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to own it with Claude, and so I've done a lot of work to get our design system documented, and now I can put that. Claude Design spits out the most beautiful slides.
No, our design team is using it and running out of tokens on a daily basis. Now we're trying to make the business case to like get more. But I actually already unlocked the slide design in Cowork. So.
Okay, interesting. I didn't get that far. Yeah. The next question is maybe for you personally a little bit more. Is there like a skill or trait that you have that you think has been the most helpful for you in your career?
I did this analysis. Apparently it's problem solving. Like I thrive in it. I like to make decisions. It's based on all the data I have available to me, my gut, which is also a data point. My experiences kind of build my gut feeling around things. And then I get to kind of use my creative part about how do I see the future, and that I just really thrive in making decisions. And I think that's a big part of the problem solving thing that really gets me going. So that's,
Yeah,
I will say,
very, very ready to go. Is it something that you've thought about before? Because normally people pause there and think.
someone asked me this question quite recently. And so it is something I've thought about. I am reflecting, like, who am I in this world of AI? Like, what do I bring to the table that Claude doesn't? Right. And I think it's my ability to have conviction and decisions. They could be the wrong ones, and you figure that out and you learn from them. But being able to move and make the decisions. And I like it. I thrive in it. So I think that's maybe why it was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, the two things that I think humans are really valuable for now is context and judgment. That's probably the only two things that I do better than AI, and problem solving is basically just applying judgment to context. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think you're probably going to be all right based on that, Jillian.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Otherwise, I make a mean cocktail, so I might just have to go back to my roots and open a bar for all of us unemployed tech.
Well, you'll reach that a lot more fun. So I think do that.
I worked at a tequila bar for 7 years.
Oh, did you? So that was when you did your background. You were all, oh, CMO here or CMO here. You didn't tell us about the tequila bar.
Yep, that's how I got through college.
That's a good way. Next question is, and this was just a bit of fun. If I was to approve your Plan A budget request tomorrow for one campaign, one big bet, or something like that, the way I always think about it is like the one. Did you say Kevin was your CMO, your CEO? Yeah, the one Kevin would never be stupid enough to approve. What would you do?
And it's one that I'm not even super comfortable with, but I would go PR. It's not a muscle that I have myself very well, but I think it's making a huge comeback in terms of when its impact on LLMs and bringing that authenticity to the market. It's expensive to do well, but I think it would be the one thing that I wouldn't have like an immediate ROI or a way to calculate it, but I think it would be the big bet.
Yeah, I mean, from our experience in what we do, it's one of the first things that we're normally telling people is you need to be doing some level of PR, producing original research. It makes that a lot easier.
Yeah, we have that and we're doing that, but I just mean like actually getting a PR agency to come and like pitch us and do all of the work, because back to what AI can and can't do, like so much of that is relationships in the media industry, right? And getting the right PR agency to do that and help you get your story out there. But original research is the story, right? Because no one cares that you rebranded. No one cares that your product does this thing. They care about the story or like the results or the outcomes.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a good one. That one actually sounds very sensible. That sounds like one that Kevin probably should approve. So if you're listening to this, Kevin, give.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like if I had some idea that like is stupid, like that would be a weird question.
What's your stupidest one that you've ever had that you secretly thought might work?
Jeez, I don't know. Now you've stumped me.
Go.
Well, I tried to pitch that customer event and it didn't. We had that was a failure. I had to like cancel on 2 people that did say they wanted to come, and that was kind of awkward. But yeah, like it just had all this conviction in it. No one wanted to come.
Copenhagen's lovely.
No one loved the product as much as I did, apparently.
I think that is a common mistake, though, is people just forget what role they play in people's lives. Right? Especially if you're like a peer product, it's like your customers they view you as this particular thing, and they don't necessarily want all of that hand holding if they don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then final question, just before I let you go, is just I always like to get a recommendation out of everyone. So whether it's a book, a podcast, a thought leader that you find really helpful, is there anything that you would recommend people check out?
Yeah, I get this question on all of these podcasts, and I feel like I'm cliche. I'm not a big business book person, to be honest. Like I don't know, if I want to fall asleep, I'll read those. But I did read a book with our leadership team called Unreasonable Hospitality. I gave you the goose egg that like I worked in a bar and stuff. Like there's so much that can be applicable to the business world, and it tells a real story. So like if you've worked in the service industry, you'll love this book, but it has some business parallels called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Okay, awesome. That's a good one, and that's something exciting new. And then finally, just anything that you'd like to promote that you're doing or that you're doing at Leadfeeder.
Yeah, I mean, we turn your B2B website into a lead generation engine. So come on over if you're interested in learning more. But by all means, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Jillian Als out there as far as I know. So I'm not here to pitch a product, but if you're intrigued, please do check us out.
Cool. Well, I would like my website to be a B2B lead generation engine, so I might just do that.
Good.
Thank you. I've been, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you. You've been very, very open and very friendly and easy to chat to. So I appreciate that.
Likewise.
Very easy.
Thanks, Tom. I had a great time.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.